Don't do it. Christine. There, I did it.
I was like, you know what? Then you fucking start.
And I did.
I gotta tell you, today's a big day.
It's Gio's Gotcha Day. Is that why?
Oh,
I thought that was why. No. I was like, you remembered.
I did not remember, but I know his birthday. I don't know his Gotcha Day, but happy Gotcha Day, Giovanni.
You do know.
Oh, it's a little sweetheart.
Why is it a big day, my friend?
Because, Christine, today is episode 365, which means we are officially a year of episodes.
So stupid.
Which is wild because
holiday for everything.
If it took 7 years for us to become a year of episodes, but if someone wanted to start, and that's why I drink today.
Oh, so we're dog years.
Like, yeah, it's on Gotcha Day.
Wait, it's the actual dog year age. That's kind of cute.
Look how. See, I told you we'd get there, and I just think it's very sweet. If someone was like, I'm going to start and that's why we drink today, and I'm going to do an episode a day, it would officially now take them one full year, one trip around the sun, as they say, to listen through.
I guess, except for all the listener episodes, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm already on a roll, Christine, so I'm going to need you to just play along here.
I just want to be a naysayer, so let me be.
I don't know why. I just gave you the coolest fact you'll ever hear, and. To be on theme of our early days, to give you the full 1 year experience, my camera glitched today, so we're getting the full circle graininess of yesteryear, as if we were to have filmed our first episode. But my camera's acting up, and I'm looking for a reason to excuse it for everybody. So this is my version
about my laptop.
This is my version of the bad audio from the first couple rounds of And That's Why We Drink.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be different because it still films in 4K, so I don't think it makes a difference. But
I have to look at myself for the next 2 hours, and I can't see how great I look. So it's nice.
It's nice. It's blurred. I don't have to see all the fine lines and
Oh, is this blurred or no? Okay. You can see that one. What about this one over here on my right hand?
Cute. Yeah, see them both.
Okay. Oh, Christine. Anyway, happy 365.
You're 7. You're 7 in dog years, so you know what? I feel like I can talk about our crow's feet, our collective podcast crow's feet.
That's totally fine. I'm just so happy I get to, if I were to put us in my ears, it would take me so long to finally get you to shut the fuck up now. It'd take a full year.
A whole year. And you know what? You're right. That is something to celebrate when you put it that way. I'm pretty excited for us. So I'm excited for everybody who gets to celebrate this big milestone with us. It's a monumental day. I've never really felt or seen anything like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't be happier. I'm at a loss for words, really.
Thank you. Because I've been thinking about it for a long time, and I kept trying to find like an on-theme episode topic for you. I could not find one. I tried so hard. And I got to be honest, before I get yelled at over my phone, Taylor from Creeps and Crimes did suggest that today I cover like calendars, like Mayan calendars, all this stuff. But I already did a Doomsday Prophecy one. I didn't want to... You know what I mean? So I specifically to Taylor, everybody else, you can turn off the podcast for like 30 seconds.
Did you just text Taylor, like, what should we do for our 365th?
No, she said it. She told me one of the last times we recorded together. It was like, she pitched it, was like, for 365, you have to do something that involves like a year theme. So calendar.
So she even knew it was a celebratory event.
It seems like, yes.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm outnumbered. Because I thought, what were you like harassing everybody about this special occasion? But it sounds like other people are on board. I'm just the only contrary person I apologize. Mm-hmm. As you can tell, I'm very sorry about it.
Good. I like where we're starting in this episode. Okay. Apologize for something else, and then I'll have a
I'm
really
bringing a
good day.
certain energy to the table.
A je ne sais quoi, a no energy. Anyway, Christine, what do you drink this week, and why do you drink this week?
I mean,
Oh
listen.
boy.
Yeah, okay.
Oh. We talked yesterday, by the
I'm
way, and I
drinking
didn't hear
water
any of
because
this.
I know.
What's
I
going
know.
on?
It's like every day I have a new world to show you. This is something that you knew about, but I finally rectified it. I got my TikTok back finally. It was an arduous and a long and a fraught process over the New Year's holiday. It took about let's see, what day is it? Almost a month to wrest it out of the hands of Mustafa, who hacked my account and then started messaging people, including you, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into a deep dive, of course, in a hotel, in like a Holiday Inn Express one night on New Year's Eve because we were driving through Pennsylvania. My husband and baby were sleeping. I thought, what better to do than to get to the bottom of this internet criminal who has taken over my account. And I was mad because he deleted all my videos. So like now they're gone. I mean, I'm sure they're saved somewhere in my camera roll, but I'm like,
that felt like extra personal. It was like, it's one thing to take over an account, but like also like, obviously neither of us actually know the reason why, but it was like, if you're just going to take it hostage because you want to get like, oh, okay. I'll shut up. Your turn. You go.
Sorry. There's a very long lag, I think. So it sometimes probably sounds like I'm like cutting you off. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to time it so that but I think I'm making it worse.
Oh, really? I don't hear a lag at all.
I do, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. It's fine. We've dealt with worse. This is episode 365. You know what I mean? Like we're a year old. We're still figuring this shit out. I was going to say, so he deleted all my videos, which I thought was like unnecessary. Like, why couldn't you just make them private? Okay. But I don't think he cared. Right. So he deleted all my videos, which was whatever, but I'm annoyed because now I don't have like all the comments and like, I just don't have any of that. And then he went and unfollowed, like, of course, kept all the fucking followers. It wasn't even that many. I mean, it was a lot, like, compared to, it was like 26,000 or something. It's not like a crazy amount. But he deleted everyone I was following, which I was very annoyed by because, like, I didn't follow that many people, but it was like very curated, right? Like, it was like my friends, and then it was, specific people I really thought were funny or whatever. So that was very annoying. And then I found his identity on the internet, his address, his phone number, all this nonsense. And I'm like, okay, so I know who he is. And I spent hours tracking him down, figuring out who he was. And then I went, well, now what? Like, I don't know why. I went on this like journey. I discovered his identity. I discovered his home address, his middle name, like all of it. And then I was like, well, apparently that's not going to do me any good. Like, I thought, oh, finally, I get to be like my, cool, like web sleuth self. And I was, and then it did nothing. And so I messaged him. I found a way to message him, like on WhatsApp. And I said, like, Mustafa, give me my fucking account back. And he said, ha ha ha, you must give me $850. And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Why the 50? Why 850? Couldn't we have rounded to a grand?
Oh, because that's the value on the marketplace is what I was told. And I'm like, there's no way my account is worth $850. But he's like, I'm going to sell it to the highest bidder. And I'm like, okay, good luck. Like, who the fuck is going to spend
you're
that
talking
much money
to her. Like,
account?
give me my fucking account.
Yeah, right?
Back.
Like, nobody wants this, right? And so just to give you an idea, by the time I finally got it back, he still owned it. So it's not like he found a bidder better than me. Okay. So I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to send you anything. But if I did, like, what, are you just going to give me my password? Doubtful. So it was just such a fucking back and forth mess. And then I waited till it was nighttime in Iraq and I posted. So the thing is, I was still logged in because I could use Face ID, but he did like the double verification. So I could, every time I tried to like change a password, it would text him and email him. And I was like, shit, like, even if it's texting him and I know his phone number, I can't like get his messages. Do you know what I mean? So it was just such a mess. And then finally, I was like desperately talking to TikTok support and like, God bless, but they were just making me furious. They were like,
Of course.
well, it looks like we removed you from the account because this Mustafa person proved it was his account. And I was like, oh yeah? Like, did he now? You know? And so
It's like
anyway, I got to this
my
big
verified
battle. It was
blue
like,
check on TikTok and my face aren't
what the
enough for you.
fuck?
Ugh,
I
whatever.
was so frustrated. So I finally got it back. It took weeks. And then I messaged him because I can't help myself. And I said like, I forget what I said, just something like catty. And then I sent you guys the text of what he responded. He said, I will always be here. And I was like, oh no, that's not the vibe I was hoping for here. I thought I had like foiled him, you know, in his plot. But then he sent this like insane message to me. Here, I'm going to pull it up because I just want to put this out there. He said he will get my account back. And I said, okay. Let's see. He said to me, I told you earlier, I will never leave you. Even if you recover your account, it's not the first time I've hacked one. Watch what happens, even if you try to retrieve it again and again. And I was like,
Oh my God.
so I just
Whoa.
responded, I'd recommend you get a hobby instead. And he said, my hobby extracts $10,000 every month. LOL.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I don't
he said,
believe
this
you,
isn't
by
the
the way.
end. Yeah, I don't believe you at all. He said, but it isn't the end. It's just the beginning. He said, we will always manipulate your account. Let's see what will happen. Good luck. And I'm like, oh my God, this man has it out for me now because and by the way, I could log into my account. The point of that story was that I posted when he was asleep, right? I posted. And I posted this video that was like, hey guys, like it's nighttime in Iraq, so I'm hoping Mustafa doesn't see this right now, and I hope he's asleep. It's like 4 a.m. So I'm gonna post this here, but just so you know, like I made another account, so go follow that. But just so you know, this is hacked, and I'm trying to fix it. And it was like very funny because he freaked out the next morning, like freaked out when he found out what I did, and
Good.
started
What
like
happened?
and people were messaging him and being like, dude, you're such a loser, like get out of here, you know. And he was getting so worked up, like I could read all the DMs, and I was like, this is kind of fun, like we're sort of cyberbullying a bully.
What was he saying back though? Like, what was his response when people would call him a loser or whatever?
He'd be like, you're a loser. Like it wasn't good.
He
It wasn't
nailed
like
it.
clever. Yeah, he nailed it. He's a fucking 10 grand a month fucking entrepreneur, you know. Like here, let me see. Like some of the messages were like, dude, give her account back. And he said, shut the fuck up, bitch.
Oh.
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
So, you know, he's kind of a nasty man. Like he's not nice.
I gathered when he stole your account and then tried to exploit you, or extort you. But yeah,
I know. I was hoping we'd have a fun little thing, like
this was your meet
know.
cute, and he'd be over for dinner next week, or
like this could be a sitcom, you know. But no, he didn't want to play that game. So he just said horrible things to people on my account, and he was like, it just really was a lot. You know. But I got it back. So, folks, if you were wondering, I'm back on TikTok now at xteen Schiefer. I still have my other account, which is Christina Bina, which is kind of my account that I made when I wasn't sure if this one was ever coming back to me. But yeah, I'm gonna try and repopulate my feed and see if I can get it back to normal. But it was a journey, and when Mustafa sent me those threatening texts, I was like, I can't help myself. I said, bring it on.
Yeah, you and my mother are exactly the same. One time, someone tried to it was like one of those scam people who they pretended to be the bank and they needed my password to get into my bank account, blah blah blah. And this was years ago now. I fell for it in some way where they had like almost hacked in, so they didn't actually get my money, but because I caught on at the very last second, like in the 11th hour.
Thank God.
My mom
this.
found out. My mom found out, and like really, like Liam Neeson threatened this person. Like really was like, "I'll rip your fucking eyeballs out," like something crazy. And like they fought back. It became a whole thing where then like,
oh my God,
it was like unnecessary. I was like, you could just.
You were like, Mom, we won.
It's like, let it be. Yeah, yeah. And she's an Aries. She really was like, any opportunity
Oh,
to
the
be a fucking
fire.
hothead, I'm gonna take it.
The fire's out.
So did you didn't pay him the $850? How did you
Of
actually
course not.
did TikTok
So
support help
finally,
you?
TikTok support helped me, which, like,
Okay.
to be honest, it took many weeks. And finally, I had to message from, like, the Beach Too Sandy TikTok. And I said, I need you to help me. I'm losing my mind. This person is, like, sending threatening, inappropriate messages to people. Like, I don't know. I sent a message and I was like, I need you to help me now or explain why we can't make this work, because they just kept closing all my I'd open a ticket and then it would be like, okay, let's go through all, you have to change your password, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't change my fucking password, like I don't know how else to say this. So finally I was like, please fucking help me. And somebody did. Somebody said, send a picture of your ID to this, to prove it's yours. And I did. And then, like, within a couple days, they were able to reassign it to my email. And then I was allowed to log in and, like, kick him off. But,
There's
man,
it
was a doozy.
There's a subreddit that's like, where do you stand? Like, in, like, what's your one take that finally has you agreeing with boomers? It's like, for all their like bad hot takes, where do you actually like get cave?
Yeah, where
and
do you
like
align? Yeah.
where do you actually agree that like they're onto something? And a lot of people are like, just fuck these stupid robots. I have to like, why is there support that I can't talk to? It's like, they're not supportive. It's
infuriating. Like,
that's probably where I stand
mean,
with the boomers. I'm like, they're taking our jobs, all these robots,
And the ridiculous thing is, like, so, I mean, the ridiculous thing overall is that I'm complaining about my TikTok account when I also lost my health insurance last week and have an infusion tomorrow. So it's like, I should be complaining about that because it's
Did it come back? Did you get it?
No. And so
Christine,
we've been,
don't you have Remicade tomorrow?
I sure do. And so we've been like,
Oh my God.
I know, it's a nightmare. So like but this is what I do. I like compartmentalize and then I just like hyper focus on something that's not the real problem, right? So that I don't lose my sanity. And so we've been dealing with this fucking insurance thing, and it's a nightmare because we're on Cobra because Blaze had been laid off. And so we had been using his insurance because podcasters, weirdly enough, don't have access to great insurance in Kentucky. It's the weirdest thing.
Wouldn't you know it?
And so I know. And so I was like calling and trying to figure it out. And then we asked for somebody to help us, like with our business manager that we both work with. And they were like, okay, sure. And they put us in touch with these people who work with insurance. And literally like 12 hours later, they messaged back this like really rude fucking email, which I told you about, where they like addressed us and put a period after our name. And I was like, don't fucking talk to me like that via email. Like, Christine, period. Like, don't do that. I see you. And then this guy goes, well, I spent hours on the chat bot and I got nowhere. And I was like, excuse me? That's what you've been doing for 12 hours? I can sit on a chat bot for 12 hours too, my friend. Like, of course you got nowhere.
Taking our jobs. I'm telling you.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I was like, he's like, well, chatbot didn't help me at all. And I was like, if it was as easy as getting on the Anthem chatbot, like we wouldn't have a problem right now. But of course that's not going to work. So anyway, I'm just like having one of those weeks where I'm like, everything's fine until for one moment I realize like I'm falling into the pits of insanity, and then I just kind of bounce back. So how are you?
Well, I have my TikTok account and health insurance. So
I'm so happy for you. I am. I'm not even just saying that this time. I really am, because fuck it, somebody needs it. If it's not me, it might as well be you.
I would like it. I don't know if I need it, but I would like it a lot. So I'm glad that I have that. But wow, I am nervous for you with your Remicade tomorrow. That sounds really, really bad.
Thank you. You know,
and that's
I was
something you don't
want to.
like, it's something you don't want to
can't
hold off on while we're
with
touring.
Exactly. That's why I didn't push it. I was like, I have to go because we're going to Salt Lake, and like I can't mess with it. So anyway, it's gonna be, I think it's like $13,500 out of pocket, and then with like a rebate, it's like $8,500 out of pocket. Which, like, what the fuck? Like, who do you think I am, right? And so I'm a podcaster in Kentucky, not like, you know,
that's gonna
Warren
not be
Buffett.
good.
I'm like, who's a rich person? I don't know. No, and like, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that like I'm not gonna, you know, go bankrupt over it. Like I'm able to source the money if need be. But like, do I want to spend 13 grand on something that like should be covered and has been covered? And no, and I don't. So I'm just like losing my mind, but it's fine. We're going to try to reimburse it. It's
Man.
just one day at a time.
Did you have you had a what's it called? A consultation with a new therapist? How'd that go?
I did. I'm so excited. And I
like
start
her?
on Friday. I do. And I start Friday, not this Friday, but the Friday after. And she was like, "Do you want to do like an over the phone?" And I was like, "You'll hear about that." No, I don't want to do over the phone. I was like, "You'll learn in time that that's unacceptable." No, but she
So you
seems
have
really
to, do you
sweet.
still have to drive to her, or is it like a FaceTime thing?
Yeah, it's like in person, but I prefer that anyway. I don't know, as you know. Well, she does virtual too if we're like traveling. But I was like, let's just do in person. And then I was like, I have a lot to talk to you about. You've never met me, but I have so much to tell you.
Isn't it weird? It's got to be weird if you're like you finally meet like
Right?
the one therapist wise, and like they just appear. For me, her name's Jordan, and she just appeared on my screen one day, and I was like, "Oh, Jordan, you're about to have a lot of information thrown at you.
Jordan.
You're in danger, girl. I don't
Look
think you know
what,
what you did
look
to
what you got
yourself."
yourself into. Well, you
I'm
inspired
happy
me
for you.
because you've had such success and such growth, as you've said with Jordan, that I was like, you know what? I need to get back on the saddle.
I love Jordan. And I feel like she's accidentally become all of our therapists at different times because I just keep
It's true.
screaming to everybody things that Jordan would say.
I'm always like, well, Jordan said to do that. And Blaze is like, who the hell is Jordan? And I'm like,
I don't mean to be that
our
person.
therapist. M's therapist.
I just finally found a therapist who isn't fucking miserable, and it took about 3 decades for that. So yeah, I wish you luck on your therapy.
Oh, wait,
journey.
do you know how I found this therapist? I didn't even tell you. Our social media manager, Megan, messaged me, or maybe it was our admin, Katie. I forget. Somebody messaged me and was like, hey, you got some recommendations? Because I think I like frantically shouted in one episode, like, I'm in Northern Kentucky. Does anyone know a good therapist? Help me. And this person, whoever it was, I have to thank them, sent like a recommendation of a practice that they don't work for or anything, but they were like, hey, this is a really good practice, very open, very accepting, LGBT friendly, etc. And I was like, oh, perfect. And so I looked at their page and I reached out and they matched me with someone. So yeah, that was a listener helped me with that. So thank you. You guys really are just helping me life coach me through life. So I appreciate it.
What a dream. That's very lovely,
What a
Christine.
dream.
Would you like to crack into it?
I really would love nothing more than to just hear a story and forget about everything else.
I have a story for you, Christine, and today we're drinking Liquid Death. We're pairing that with our drink, so let's crack into it. Liquid Death,
Excellent.
pay me. We
Beautiful.
do this every time. Okay, anyway.
And how many times do I have to tell you? First of all, Blaze still makes fun of you for the time you said they were like a small business at one time, and Blaze was like,
they
"Aren't they owned by,
were.
like-"
They're not now. They were.
I think they were never. I think they were. Well, maybe, but I'm like, they're owned by like somebody big. I don't know, Dasani, Nestle. I have no idea.
Now.
But yeah, but like they're not going to pay you. You're giving them free promo.
I know, but just know that I'm a martyr. That's what it is. And everyone should be so happy.
Oh no, I'm wrong. It's owned by oh wait, hold on. How mysterious.
What? It's owned by like McDonald's or something.
No, I was wrong. I was wrong. Oh wow, their brand is valued at $700 million. Yeah.
Good for them.
So, you know.
Sounds like they could pay
them.
me. Anyway.
It sounds like they don't need to.
I know. Just trying to make myself feel better. Okay. Anyway, since we're talking about water, everybody seems to like what I fucking say, and I'm always getting DMs, so I'm going to keep saying it. This is your reminder to drink some water, you thirsty little rats.
I don't get it. I don't really. Do I get it? Is it like a joke that I missed?
Oh, look, it's Christine the Naysayer. She's back after 20 minutes. Oh, wow. It didn't take long at all.
I took a long rest and I'm back. And I'm jazzed up to be rotten. And I'd like
so.
I'd like to know if I guess I just since you said, oh, people like love it and stuff, I'm like, can you explain it to me? Because I think I'm playing along, but I don't get it. Like, is it a joke that I just never understood, or is it like you just say it for fun?
People just like the reminder to drink
Like, is
some
it a
water.
TikTok? I mean, the rat thing.
Oh, nope. People just like being called rats.
Okay. So that's not like because I thought maybe it's a TikTok joke or something that I like didn't get because I'm an ignoramus, but it's just a thing you invented, right?
No, you're just not with it no matter what. That's all.
Right. Okay, great. Just want to make sure that's still what's happening.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well, Christine, my favorite little rat,
Yeah.
who I hope you took that as a compliment. Okay.
I did. I love rats, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Sick.
Well, you don't. So I don't know. Again, I don't get it, but it's fine. I love it.
Sometimes you don't have to understand. You just get to be part of the party. That's all. So
You're right.
it's just a party of rats, I guess. That's all of us today. And we're going to hear a story, which I wanted to make about calendars and like the 1 year and 365. It never happened. So unfortunately, we don't get that. Instead, we get a fun little tale, which I might need your help pronouncing because I think it's a German last name.
Oh.
Nodolf. Nodolf.
Not familiar to me in any way, but
All right.
maybe.
That
Nodolf,
makes
I
this
would
more
say.
fun. Well, this is the Nodolf, I'm going to call it Nodolf Incident. And
An incident.
that word we both know pretty well, yeah. This is in Platville, Wisconsin, which is not Plathville, if anyone has been watching that ball of drama reality show. Excuse me. This is Platville, Wisconsin, and it's in an area known as the Driftless region, which I love when a region gets its own name. And it's called the Driftless region because I guess at one point glaciers never passed over it like the rest of the Midwest. And the region was once an ancient layer of limestone. It was just all limestone. And it eroded over time, but it left these big mounds, which became like significant locations for indigenous people in the area. And then those indigenous people also built like thousands more like man-made mounds. So
Wow.
a lot of mounds in the area. Fun fact, Wisconsin, out of everywhere in the world, I would have not won this trivia round, but Wisconsin is the area with the largest concentration of effigy mounds in the world.
I would never have known that.
I would have seen that on a multiple choice and been like, it's obviously not Wisconsin.
I mean, I would have said Ohio. There are a lot here, and usually weird shit happens here. Like, as far as when trivia questions are brought up, a lot of times Ohio just tends to be the answer because it's like just some weird random ass fact about Ohio. So I probably would have guessed. But yeah, I mean, Wisconsin, that's really interesting. I had no idea.
Yep. Fun fact. This is about to be a story of fun facts, my friend. So we're chock full. The area was also rich in lead, and so indigenous people started mining for lead in the area until the lovely colonizers started moving in, and then they became their own miners and moved in on the lead deposits.
This is my lead now.
Yeah. I said, I can't believe I discovered lead in front of a group of people holding lead.
Yeah, isn't this the craziest thing, you guys? I'm such a good explorer.
Since the second white people got here, we've just been mansplaining to people how to do their own fucking job.
It's so embarrassing. Yeah.
It's so embarrassing. Anyway, so all these people had literally been holding on to lead for probably 100 years. Then a white person shows up and goes, there's this thing called lead. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's mine.
It's mine now.
God, we've just always been 5-year-olds on a playground. So in 1927, the town of Platteville is established in this area. And due to the lead boom, it's a big mining area, as we knew, and a mining school is officially opened in the town. And again, this is during the 1920s. So later, the school transitioned into just like a general college, not just a mining school. And by 1937, students used some of the stones in the area to build, like, I guess I'm assuming the school started with an M, or M for like mining or something. They really like the letter M. And so in 1937, a bunch of students used stones in the area to construct an M into the hillside to like promote either the school or the town.
You
There's an
have
M.
to understand that the way you
What?
said it sounds like they constructed a giant M, Schultz, into the side of the
Oh,
mountain. You have to.
it's
You have to
actually
understand that. My mind went. They constructed a what? A giant M on the side of the mountain.
I see.
Oy vey.
After I just talked about how shitty white people are and how this place is
Right?
full
Like
of
your
like
own Mount
man-made
Rushmore.
indigenous effigy mounds, but there's a statue of me.
There's a statue of you in the cliff.
Sorry, the letter M.
Understood.
So yeah, put a bunch of stones together. They made the letter M into the hillside. It's actually the world's largest hillside M, and it is 241 feet tall.
Wow.
And it's like just leaning up against one of the mounds, and it's now a landmark of the town. Is if you go to Platville, you'll see this M in the hills. So this is where we hit our first big deep dive, which leads us into our second deep dive. So I hope you weren't really invested in this story yet. We're about to spend the next 15 minutes talking about something else completely.
I'm just here for the ride.
Great. So like I said, this school decided to put a big letter in the middle of their hill during the 20s and 30s. Apparently this was a very common thing. And this is where I insert my own, I don't know, random information for people to use nothing with, or to use for nothing. But living in Burbank, one of our big landmarks is that we have a giant bee on the hill in Burbank.
Oh, right.
And
Yes, I do know about the bee.
the bee, yes. It's called the Burbank Bee. And it's in the Verdugo Mountains, which this is like one of the first landmarks when I moved to Burbank. I was like, oh my God, like, did you know that we have a bee? And everyone was like, yeah, yeah. So where I live, we're right up on mountains, the Verdugo Mountains. And there is a bee facing the town of Burbank. If you look up in the hills, there's a massive white bee. It's this popular landmark. It's been around since the 20s or 30s, just like this M has been. Here's the thing,
what they
though.
just did like their hobbies like in the 20s? Like I don't understand. Like they were just like, I know, let's write big letters out of rocks. That's what we do.
So
in the 20s.
it's well, I will say the reason I bring up the Burbank Bee is because it's a town mystery how the bee got there. Allegedly it stands for Burbank. But we really don't know who put it there or when or why. But there's like three main theories. One is that the Burbank Chamber of Commerce put it there to promote the city because apparently everyone at the time was putting letters on the hill and they were like, we got a hill. So let's put a bee there. The other thought is that there's a school nearby that is called Burrows, John Burrows High School. The thought is that they put it up there to stand for Burrows, and not Burbank at all. But the main theory is that the Key Club at Burbank High School put the bee up there sometime around the 20s or the 30s. That's the overwhelming popular theory is that Burbank High School did the bee.
What's
at least with people I've talked
club?
to.
Because I'm very stupid.
I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid too. I assumed it had something to do with singing for some reason, like the chorus. Key Club. What is a Key Club?
Oh, I thought it was like a volunteer thing, but I could be wrong. I'll Google it.
Probably
Key
right.
Club.
What does Key Club
a student-led high school organization who make the world a better place through service. Okay, so yeah, it is like a
that's
a
lovely.
volunteer
That's
thing.
I don't know why I thought Key Club. I guess because maybe they like
Singing
the right key.
in minor key.
I don't know. But anyway, Key Club decided that they were going to put a bee on the hill.
Okay.
We still don't totally know the origins of why, but the thought is that they did it because at the time a lot of people were doing this, and they originally started with like white stones that they also put together to put out a letter. Then at one point it was chalk, and it became like a tradition for students to go up there every year and re-chalk it so that the bee would be right when the school year started. And now it's literally white fencing over a black tarp, so that way it really pops.
I didn't know that.
So people that are usually of like either in Burbank, the town, or go to Burbank High School think it stands for Burbank. But if you go to Burrows, I think there's like this like weird obligation to think that the B stands for Burrows. And because of that, as someone who
Right.
lives in Burbank, I can confirm that Burbank and Burrows, who are rivals, they do a lot of pranks with the bee, like during like homecoming, like if they play each other.
Wait, when you
John
say
Burrows,
Burbank, do you mean like Burbank High School or like the town of Burbank?
the town of Burbank and Burbank High School both seem to
Okay,
think that the B
I didn't know
stands
there
for
was a
Burbank.
Burbank High School involved, and so I thought like when you said, "Oh, Burroughs High School" and like Burbank play a lot of like pranks, I was like,
Oh,
Burbank
oh,
is
oh,
like
oh.
a grown ass city. Like leave the high
No,
schoolers alone. But okay, you're saying there's also a high school that claims it's
there's
B for Burbank. I see.
yes.
Okay.
Another fun fact, by the way, if you ever watched, I think it was Victorious on Nickelodeon, the school, like they show you like the front of the school in between scenes. That's Burbank High School. Fun
Oh,
fact.
so they already have a win, you know?
I know, but John Burroughs High is like known to be where like a bunch of like celebrities and kid actors go if they want to have like the real high school
Oh,
experience. Like all the Seventh Heaven kids went there, I think, and like Matilda went there, and there's
wow.
Tim Burton went to Burroughs. It's like a very big like people in Hollywood went to Burroughs thing.
Matilda
Um,
went there. That means Mrs. Trunchbull went there too.
no, actually, the Chokey is at John Burroughs High.
See, they got it all. They got it all.
There was that little girl with the pigtails. They actually threw her over the hill into the Burbank Bee.
Oh, it's tragic.
So anyway, John Burroughs High School and Burbank High School are rivals, and during like homecoming season, they'll prank each other and like paint the bee their school colors and stuff like that. Or
Okay, that's fun.
so sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's And another fun fact: if you were to look at the mountain and then go to the other side of it, there's an H for Hoover High School in Glendale, which is the town on the other side of the mountain.
Oh, they
So
felt left out.
there's well, then I was like, why are there so many fucking schools putting
Yeah, what
letters
is
on
happening?
hills? And I guess this was a big thing in the 1920s and 30s where hillside
Aha.
letters became very popular, especially in Southern California, but all over the place, including Platville, Wisconsin, with this big ass 240-foot M. Because towns were. It started with colleges and high schools, and then towns started adapting it when planes started needing to find their airfields from the sky. And so they started putting a letter as like their
Oh.
code of like the airfield is nearby that you're looking for.
Whoa, I
So-
didn't know that.
The very first college or school hillside letter was at UC Berkeley in 1905, and they made this big ass C, and for California, I guess. And it started this school letter craze, and up to like 500 schools throughout the country have put a letter in a hillside because of it.
What?
And this
is
is
crazy.
This is,
I really didn't know about this.
you should look up your schools in your area. I was gonna do that last night and write a list of like the ones near you, but I didn't want to triangulate you. But
Oh,
there's got
I'll
maybe
do
even
it.
like but yeah, like University of Oregon, Loyola Marymount, like University of Utah has one. But like all these schools have a letter
what did
somewhere
you
on a
type
hillside.
in?
School hillside letters.
Okay, let's see. Whoa, wow. Okay, this is interesting. Apparently this phenomenon doesn't seem to have really struck Cincinnati. Unless I'm
Okay.
just
Well,
missing
it has
but,
struck Platteville,
mean-
Wisconsin, and then California.
Yeah, so that's okay. How cool though. These look kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just like a weird fad that I guess happened, and then it became a tradition to like maintain it, so it never really went away. So the Burbank Bee, anyway,
Yeah.
likely became it was part of that fad where like all the California schools in the area were doing it, and this is where I go into
see.
my second deep dive, that nobody fucking asked
Okay.
for. But do you know which hillside spelling lettering is the most famous in California that came out of this fad?
Is it in Southern California?
Starts with an H.
Oh, Hollywood.
The Hollywood sign. Yeah. So it was actually I wanted to bring it up because like when will I ever get to talk about it again? And I feel like a lot of people who haven't lived in the LA area don't really, or maybe in California in general, don't know the story of the Hollywood sign. Which
Yeah.
I'm not going to take forever on it, but I just thought it was a fun fact that if you don't live in
It is a
California,
cool story.
you probably don't know about it. So yeah, like I said, a bunch of towns started doing letters in the hills, and some of them had enough of a budget that they started doing just a full name of an area. So that way, instead of doing a letter, they had a full phrase. And that is how we got the original sign in 1923 that said Hollywood Land. And it's the most famous example of these letters in the hills. And fun fact, Hollywood Land was actually just the name of like a real estate housing development. It was like just a subdivision that was trying to advertise that they were selling homes in this area. And it was supposed to be Hollywood Land was the subdivision of Hollywood, the town. And in 1923, the sign was supposed to be a temporary ad in the hills to like play into this like big 1920s craze of letters in the hills. And the sign originally used to light up. It had 4,000 light bulbs on it, and it would light up Holly. It would light up one by one. It'd go Hollywood Land, Hollywood Land. And so, fun fact, it used to light up. And then even though it was meant to essentially be a billboard, it had like an 18-month contract. But then because it like gained so much notoriety during the time, they asked to keep it, and the Chamber of Commerce agreed, but they turned off the lights because it was too expensive. Fair fucking enough.
I was going to say that must have been like for an advertisement in the 20s to have 4,000 lights on it. Like they must have been making bank selling these properties. That's
I know.
Crazy.
I know. So the lights stayed on for a decade too.
Oh my God.
After the original contract and they kept it up, they were like, we want it to light up, and it's like the thing. So if you ever see like a movie portraying the Hollywood sign as like lighting up, you'll know if it's accurate or not if it says Hollywood Land, and if the period is from 1923 to 1933. Between that, it never lit up. And in 1949, they decided they were going to repair it because it was meant to be up for like 18 months, and now it's been up for like 25 years.
You're right.
So it's like she's busted, and they were like, we should rebuild her. And I guess the contract stipulated that they would take away land because this whole time it had been promoting a housing development and not the actual town. It was like promoting Hollywood Land development instead of Hollywood, the town. So they got rid of land, and it stayed up as Hollywood, did not light up at all. And then in 1978, this is the last fun fact I'll tell you about it, a windstorm knocked down some of the words, and I guess the first O in Hollywood got split in half, like cut right down the middle. So it looked like a lowercase U, and then one of the other O's in wood got completely destroyed. And so if you looked at it for a long time, instead of it saying Hollywood, it said Hollywod. And people started, that was the beginning of people
Hollywod.
Like making fun of the name and like using it during campaigns. So like the most recent one was like when weed became legal here, someone went up and like changed the letters to spell Hollyweed. Like, so it was anyway, so when it said Hollywod, this led to like this big like star-studded restoration campaign. And do you know the name of the A-lister or the celebrity who was really in charge with restoring the Hollywood sign?
Do you know what year it was, or like about?
1978.
You don't
have to know.
Anderson. I have no idea.
Kinda. It was Hugh Hefner.
Okay.
Hugh Hefner, because there's 9 letters in Hollywood, it was him, and then he got 8 of his friends to each donate. At the time, it was $28,000, but in today's world, it's $130,000. He got him and 8 of his friends to each select a letter and donate today $130,000 to restore it, to put Hollywood back together and like have it maintained.
Wow.
So
Okay, and so I assume he got the
he got the
double H.
Y.
Oh, okay.
But
Never mind.
you would think H for Hugh Hefner Hollywood. Yeah, right?
Right, I would think. But I guess, somebody really wanted that H, one of his friends, maybe. I don't know.
I guess so. But he got the Y, and then other people who were involved were Alice Cooper, Gene Autry. He got Warner Brothers Records to sponsor one of the letters.
Wow.
Anyway, that is the long-winded double deep dive of
I love
hillside letters.
I mean, like, come on, like, that's fascinating. And then do you ever start spinning out where you're like, imagine if we didn't have the internet, like, we would just literally, like, nobody would know. There's no way to know these things,
I know.
Anyway,
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
What I'm more fascinated by is the fact that there was a time without internet and enough was preserved to end up on the internet. Where I'm like,
yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, what are we missing? Like, I'm sure there's so much we lost. Anyway,
oh yeah,
I'll have a cry about it later.
Yeah, take a weed gummy and you'll really spiral out.
I'm gonna call Jordan later. I'll call Jordan later. Poor Jordan.
Anyway, in case you forgot, we were talking about the Nodolf Incident, and we left off forever ago, where all you know so far is it's a big old area full of effigy mounds, and a mining school came in and they put a big M in the hill. In one of their hills back in the 20s. Okay.
A letter M, to be clear, not the exciting effigy of M that I thought had been erected on a monument as a monument, but the letter
if
M.
Anyone would like to put even like a bobblehead size statue of me somewhere, you can. I approve. You go for it.
Okay. All right.
But so the story really starts now with, so now it's a mining town. People are very proud of that. And then this guy named Charles or Carl, depending on the version you hear, Nodolf or Nodolf, he moved to the area from Germany. Now, there's two versions to the story. There's more of like a legend version, and then there's like the what facts have told us version. The more folklore version is that Carl bought a cottage within view of the Platt Mound, and that happens to be the one with the M in it. Fun fact. So he was within view of this mound, and he bought a homestead there. But weeks before, he officially moved in with his family, he had to go back to Germany to bring his fiance over. His fiance's name was Caroline, and he was going to bring Caroline over from Germany. She was going to meet him back at their home, and they were going to live happily ever after. But she ended up dying of diphtheria during her travels.
Shit.
And the outbreak actually claimed most of her family who was traveling with her. And so everyone but her mom and her sister ended up surviving. Or ended up dying. Sorry. Everyone but her mom and her sister.
No.
Carl felt like an obligation to her family that they just lost everyone. He just lost his fiance. And so he had them move into the house with him so that way they could stay a family and he would take care of them to honor his wife or his fiance.
That's nice. He's like, we didn't even get married yet and you could all move in.
Yeah. It's like there's only 3 of us left now, which is sad.
Quite a commitment.
Carl and who would have been his sister-in-law, Louise, fell in love. Drama. And I mean, his fiance wasn't there, so I guess technically he didn't do anything wrong. And so,
I mean, yeah.
But then it kind of feels like he did something wrong because he had to wait 2 years until she turned 18.
Oh, okay. Got weird.
Yeah.
Yep. Got weird.
Mm-hmm.
Spoke too soon.
There's no way it can't become weird. Yeah. So, so that's the folklore version, which, what a lovely tale.
Oh, yeah. Delightful.
The factual version is that Carl moved to the Platt Mound with the next to the mound with the big letter M in it. But the story immediately takes a shift from there because instead of him having to go to Germany and collect his fiance and her family, the truer story is that his brother was married into that family and he only knew of them through his brother. And they had already settled in to town. There was no like traveling to Germany to have to collect everybody. And so there was no diphtheria outbreak. The family was alive and well. They all lived in the area. And even worse than the folklore version, which I like that someone
Oh.
tried to make it a little less offensive. Carl's sister-in-law, Louise, who he fell in love with in the folklore version, he did fall in love with her here too, but instead of her being 16, she was 9.
Oh, it's so much worse. Oh, no.
And at 18, so this part the folklore got right. At 18, they got married, but sounds like someone was waiting a long time. Gross. I don't know. Maybe they fell in love on her 18th birthday. Let's assume.
Let's hope and pray.
Let's hope.
And just know that that's not the truth, but, you know.
Let's
the truth
let's
we
just
want.
cover our eyes and go la la la. And on her 18th birthday, there's a wedding. The couple made a happy life together. They had 2 kids who they named Minnie and Louis. So it's Carl, Louise, with Minnie and Louis.
Cute.
And in 1880, the incident happens.
Uh-oh.
Where Carl and Louise see a storm rolling through town, and it's a bad storm. Remember, they're like right up on Tornado Alley. The storm seemed to be aimed right at them. Interestingly, they said that the storm was so narrow that you could see a clear sky on either side of its path.
Ooh.
Which feels super duper ominous.
So sinister, yeah.
They secured all the shutters. They put everything away that could blow away. They locked all the doors. And pretty soon it starts torrential downpouring, gale force winds. They all stay in for the night. And they even claim to hear wolves howling over the thunder, which, like, how loud does a wolf howl for it to be over thunder?
They're probably like, let me in.
Yeah,
It's
they're
wet
like,
out
it's
here.
wet out here.
Banging on the fucking doors.
So they're hearing wolves. They all feel very on
Jesus.
edge. Well, the adults feel on edge. Their kids at this point are like 4 years old and 2 years old. So I don't know if they're on edge, but yeah. So everyone's just like, it's just a weird scenario. It just feels off. Hours later, after they've slept a little, thunder shakes the whole house and wakes up Louise. And she wakes up to her daughter Minnie, who's 4, crying for help from her own bedroom.
Oh, no.
Louise goes to comfort her kid, but when Louise gets there, Minnie and Louis are gone, totally missing. So she heard them crying for help, and now they're nowhere to be found.
What?
The couple freaks out and searches the entire house, even though all the windows and doors are still completely bolted from the inside because of the storm. Completely bolted, and they're 4 and 2. They wouldn't, I don't think, even know how to unlock it if they could reach it. Maybe they could, maybe Minnie could at least, but they're too small. They wouldn't have been able to unlock anything anyway. And then also, they wouldn't have been able to relock it from the outside. Yeah.
Right.
So Carl and Louise are searching for them. They know that they have to be somewhere in the house because they're locked inside. And they start shouting their children's names, wondering where they are. And they hear their kids all of a sudden calling back to them from outside.
What?
So Carl unbolts all the doors and runs around and finds them outside, standing in the pouring rain. And they grab the kids and rush them inside to the fire to dry them off and get them warm. But even though they were standing outside in the pouring rain, seemingly for at least several minutes, they were absolutely bone dry. Clothes, hair, body. As if they had some invisible umbrella over them. Totally dry. It also didn't make sense that Minnie, vanished from her room just seconds after calling for help. They heard her in her room. Then she was gone. Then she was outside. So in the time that it took them to find them is how long she allegedly was missing.
What in the world?
They kept asking the kids what happened, how'd they get outside. The kids just keep saying, I don't know. And I mean, they're 4 and 2, so maybe they really didn't know. But eventually the kids tried telling what happened, but every time they would try to describe the event, they started stuttering and couldn't get the words out. And they were not known to stutter, but it was almost like they couldn't, like they were prevented in some way, because they would be talking fine until they had to discuss the event, and then they would only stutter.
What the fuck happened?
the harder they would try to talk about it, the more they would stutter until it was clear that they were never going to be able to explain what happened and give up. And then they would go back to talking about something else and no more stutter.
What?
The family eventually gave up asking because they were like, anytime we bring it up, they can't get the words out. So let's just kind of hope that one day you just forget this event and, you know, you went missing, and then 5 minutes later we found you, and that's all we're going to chalk it up to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is they were found, so at the very least, like, they don't need to rehash it over and over, but geez.
Yeah. And only after this event, Minnie and Louis both developed stutters, which stayed for the rest of their lives, especially whenever talking about the event.
Really?
They had 6 more kids later, and none of them ever stuttered. Side note, I'm saying stutter because I don't think a lot of people actually know the correct term these days, but instead of stuttering, people now say either child onset fluency disorder or a disfluency. Fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the family and what happened to them became local lore, and people still can't explain what happened. Some people think that Carl and Louise, like, at the same time, without any history of this, sleepwalked in unison and locked their own kids out. That's the first theory people go with.
Okay.
And maybe, like, I guess you could branch out of, like, oh, maybe they were drinking or something. Maybe they were, like, not thinking. I don't know.
Or, like, maybe one parent was asleep and the other parent was sleepwalking, you know?
Right.
I mean,
right.
I don't know.
Carl suggested that this is just blatantly racist, that perhaps a group of Romani people had attempted to kidnap their kids.
It always ends up that way, doesn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it? You just blame people who weren't even fucking there.
Yeah.
So he says maybe they tried to kidnap my kids, but the storm made it too difficult. But beyond that being wildly racist and baseless, by the way, there were no Romani communities in the area. Romani people didn't travel around stealing children. And also, if, like, why would kidnappers give up after they've already napped the kids? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it doesn't make
they already got them
sense.
out of the house. Just
yeah.
So why would you leave then? Like, leave them. Whatever. It doesn't even matter because it's stupid.
It's not real.
It's literally not real. Some say that the house was haunted, and speculation is that it was Carl's fiance who was jealous that he ended up with her sister and had kids with her, and for 15 minutes only decided to haunt them and then steal her own niece and nephew. That's another version.
And then give them back.
And then give them back. Oh, never mind. These kids are too damn much. Yeah. But also remember, like, the fiance never actually existed in the real version of the story, only the folklore version. So it doesn't even matter. The simple option is that Carl and Louise just made this whole thing up. Also, if they did make it up, maybe their kid just happened to develop a fluency disorder at the same around the same time, and they just put that into the story.
I mean, at that age, like, you're starting to talk, you know, I mean, you maybe wouldn't have even encountered the fluency issue yet, you know, so maybe it was just it hadn't come out yet, you know, or hadn't been recognized.
Yeah, that
yet.
is typically the age that people develop a fluency disorder. So they could have just been two things that happened at the same time.
I feel like my whole world of, like, kids' speech and all that has been, you just kind of know it. All of a sudden you know so much about it when you have a child, because it's like all the articles and headlines and, like, what's, you know, when to talk to a doctor, when not, you know. So I feel like, that makes sense that it would be around that age.
Well, so far, it doesn't sound like Leona's having any fluency issues when she says wobbly mountain every 5 seconds. So
wobbly mountain and
she might have an OCD issue. She might have.
Oh, she certainly does. Multiple people have come up to me and been like, just so you know, she's showing some signs of, like, some perhaps OCD tendencies, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, is anybody surprised? No.
Yeah, when you're the mom, she's gonna have something, but I think it's gonna be maybe she's just gonna, like, weirdly highlight the same text nonstop on the screen or something.
Right.
Like, it's just
it could be worse.
It's like, but did she die? No, like she's fine, you know.
Did she die? And also, like, you know what? At least I know what it is and what to do.
Yeah.
You know how to handle it because I'm like same girl.
Yeah. Plus,
Yeah.
Funkle M's got the stash over here, so one day when she's big enough for some Xanax, we'll try some things
Oh
out.
God, yeah, that's great.
she'll
Yeah,
be fine.
I'm glad we're
She'll be
planning that out. Wait, question. What was
What?
it that you noticed where you were like, oh, there's OCD tendencies? I'm just collecting I'm making a little list just to know for my
Well,
own.
I don't know if it actually is, but I have my own sensitivities because my mom still to this day won't shut up about it. That I was, and also I don't think it's OCD. I would imagine it's more like hyperfixating. But she's also literally fucking like 2. Like she's allowed to like be like stoked about
Literally,
Wobbly Mountain all
barely.
day. But my mom to this day will talk about how she should have seen signs of me like being hyper focused on things, because there was this one game I made up and I would play it nonstop for hours, and she'd be like, I didn't even have to worry about a babysitter because I could have left you in this room.
No way.
And you would have played this game that you created from sunrise until sunset, and you would have never gotten bored.
By yourself?
And by myself. I was also an only child. Everything I did was by myself.
I know, but I'm like, because Leona will not play by herself. She's like, somebody else needs to like walk me up Wobbly Mountain or be entertained
That
by
girl
my
is destined
drawing
for a sibling, my
skills.
friend. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
That was not how I
certainly.
operated.
What was the game? What was the game?
Ugh, it wasn't even a fun game. It was just, it feels like I was just, we had 2 dogs at the time, and it was like the 90s thing to do where you would get like those like ceramic statues of your whole family. Like you'd get like remember the chair with all the bears, and every bear had like a
Precious
little
Moments?
name. Precious Moments, that's what it was.
Oh.
We had a Precious Moment statue of
Those
both of our
things?
dogs. And it was just that I would take one statue of a dog and bring it over to the table and put it in the drawer. And then I'd walk back over and I'd grab the other one, and I would walk away and I'd put it in the drawer. And then I'd pick up one of the dogs from the drawer and I would walk all the way back over and give it to my mom. And then I would walk all the way back over and I would I kind of think I have like some spectrum tendencies also.
Wow, that is
But I would
unique.
do it. I would do, truly. I would do it forever. Like there's even audio footage of my mom thinking the microphone was not working on the camera, apparently, and you can hear her go, "I think something's wrong." Like,
Oh no! Okay, so she was like clearly onto something.
she was onto something.
Wowza.
But she didn't know what it was. I think she just thought I was like really good at self-entertaining.
Yeah.
Which I was. But anyway, I don't think Leona has that yet. But if she ever is as obsessed with that as I was with my weird statue game, the girl might have some hyper-focus issues.
I wish she was focused on something, because Wobbly Mountain, I mean, she's 2, but Wobbly Mountain lasts like maybe 5 minutes. Like the longest it ever gets played is like she goes up and down and up and down and up and down, and then like 10 minutes later she just like throws herself off and is like, let's draw. Like nothing lasts
Oh,
for
well,
that
then
long,
that totally
so.
throws off my entire theory. So
Yeah,
I guess I don't have
the OCD
anything.
thing is more just like if a drawer is open, like she will like freak the fuck out, you know, and has to close
Oh.
every drawer and door.
I don't
and,
think
you
you
know,
need
things
any
that,
more
like,
of a list, my friend.
right, like things that I do where I'm like, I just want to make sure that this isn't just my influence, like being, you know what I mean? But it seems to be all her. She just has these like very specific things that need to be the right
That sounds
way.
like
you
all
know,
her.
which
I've never seen you
obviously-
panic about a drawer or a dresser or anything. So
You
maybe she's just got a different
'cause I
flavor
hide
of
it.
whatever you've got going on.
My drawer and dresser thing is very different. I have to tap the inside of it 3 times before I close it. Never said that to you before, but that's one of them. Surprise.
What?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call Jordan after. I'm texting her right now. That's insane.
Oh, she knows. I'm just kidding.
No, I
didn't know
haven't
that
noticed
about me?
anything yet. No, I did not know that. I'm still learning things about you after a whole year of episodes.
I'm very good at hiding things.
I knew about your highlighting text thing, but that's because you can't hide that from me when we're on the same Google
Because I
Drive.
can't hide it in a Google Doc. It's a curse.
And when we used to record, remember when we would record in your old house, we would sit next to each other
God.
as you would tell
be
stories.
like-
I was like, this is for an hour and a half. I'd be like, girl, it's right there. I can
I'm
see
just
what
glad
you're
you didn't
doing.
have epilepsy. The way I was just like fucking flashing my screen, like you would have been in such big trouble.
No, I don't actually see any tendencies just yet, I guess, of Leona, but I have no doubt something will appear at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
honestly, think about it. Statistically speaking, but
but
it's
she's
okay.
gonna be a good time. I don't even. It's like she's just gonna have a quirk. If I had a kid, they'd have like 10 quirks by now. So
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for you to buy Precious Moments dolls of your family and see what happens.
I'm gonna. You know what? How about this? How about as a gift, I buy Leona 2. I'll do Juniper and Moonshine and get her precious moments of them, and we'll see what she does with them in a drawer for 5 hours. How about
They're
that?
smashed immediately. Like they're don't even spend money on that. They're gone. There's no way. She's also related to me. Like they're gonna crash into a million pieces, and it's gonna be like emotionally damaging, and then I'm gonna have to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
Eva, if you're listening, I'll send you the video of me passing the dogs back and forth nonstop. I don't know if I have the clip of my
I
mom
want
saying
that.
something's wrong, but she does imply it, so you'll hear it for sure.
You can just call Linda. She'll say it now. She'll say something's
She would
wrong
say it
and we
now.
can
She'd
get
be
it on
like,
audio.
she was like, it was my own fault that I didn't take you to a doctor sooner because it's obvious something was like you
It's
were
all our parents'
self-entertaining
faults,
way
it's
too well.
always, and it's their parents' fault. It's always everyone's parents' fault,
Yeah,
That's just how
Mom,
it is.
it's your fault. You take it up with your own
mean,
therapist.
They know. You know what you did.
Honestly, I was such a fucking weird kid that one probably just flew under the radar compared to everything else. So
It
I'm
was
not
like
really all that
this
surprised.
at least you're babysitting yourself. Like that's huge.
Yeah, I was having a good time.
I wish Leona would entertain herself every now and then at least, but no.
You know what? Maybe she just hasn't found the right game. A Funkle M will show her. Don't worry. That's
Maybe not.
I got it.
Oh,
I got the
okay,
hookup.
great. You handle it.
Where were we? Oh. Okay, so I only have a little bit left here, but people think that either they made it up, they think that maybe it never happened at all, they think it might be a ghost, they think they were sleepwalking. Some people who did think that Carl and Louise were making it up, they were like, well, maybe they just wanted a story, maybe they were new to the area, maybe they that was the way that they wanted things to go. But neighbors remember seeing them completely disturbed about this for like months afterwards. Like they could not figure out if their kids were safe or like where their kids are going because now they lost their kids with no real explanation. So now they're probably
That's
panicked every night that
scary.
they're going to lose their kids. It was obvious that something happened. So maybe other people think like a poltergeist because that would make sense of like luring the children out, being able to open the door and lock them out. But people also who go to the area still say that they hear like phantom voices and creepy sounds at night. But like a poltergeist doesn't usually last for like 15 minutes. It's like an ongoing problem. Because
it
after
seems
this,
like
it
a
never
weird,
happened again.
very powerful thing to happen one time and then it's just odd. It would be odd, I think, but I don't know.
Well, this is where we get into Christine's favorite, which is some people theorize aliens could be responsible.
I knew it. I mean, I theorized. The second you told me they were outside, and they weren't wet, I was like, well, fucking aliens, obviously.
Yep. So many people consider this one of the earliest records of a U.S. alien abduction. And it has the classic lost time aspect where the kids don't know what happened. They don't know how they got outside. People heard them in the house, and then all of a sudden they were outside of the house. And it was minutes later, so maybe for us it felt like minutes. Maybe they actually were gone for a long time. They disappeared seconds after calling for help, reappeared later. Maybe something happened that keeps them from remembering or being able to describe the experience.
Yeah, because they can't talk about it, which
they can't talk
feels
about
like
it.
an alien thing, right?
To have like the sudden onset disfluency, as if like they did something to like warp their ability to share about it. Also, it feels like they were shielded in some way from the rain because they were not wet, even though there was a literal fucking like tornado outside. Or it was like a torrential downpour, and that suggests like technologically advanced things, especially for the it was either like the late 1800s or early 1900s that this story was. So yeah, something that they had never seen before, kept their kids dry. And maybe even Carl and Louise were the abducted ones, which is why it seemed like the kids vanished suddenly. Like maybe they had maybe they had done something to like either save their kids or get their kids out of the house and they just don't remember anything. So anyway, if that is, to me, that's the theory that makes the most sense. I know like UFOs and aliens are like, first you have to believe in UFOs and aliens for the theory to make sense. But for me, it makes total sense that it would be an alien abduction.
I think it was aliens. I'll be honest. I think it was aliens. I mean, why else? The dryness, the like not being or being so traumatized they can't talk about it, or they develop like this disfluency when they try to talk about it. It's so traumatizing. They're so freaked out. They don't even know what happened. They're dry from the rain. They're outside of a locked house. They're little kids near like an area that has a lot of like, I don't know, rich cultural history. I don't know. I think it was aliens.
Even think like if like this was way before the 1950s UFO craze, so they wouldn't have even had the context to talk about it. Like they wouldn't have known how to say a flying car. They wouldn't have even been able to say car. Maybe I don't even fucking know how far back in history this goes. But a flying machine of people who don't look like people, like they wouldn't know what to say.
I mean, for a 4-year-old, yeah. Like, how do you even?
A 2-year-old, he had to just think he was dreaming the whole fucking time. It's like this. I don't know. I have no idea how you process that. It's like, I mean, they say all the time on TikTok. It's like, imagine explaining this to a Victorian child, but imagine explaining a UFO abduction to like a 2-year-old from the 1910s. You know, like they'd be
impossible. Like, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. Your arms are showing, and that's illegal or something. Right. And I'd be like, oh. Right. I can't even have a conversation with you. So let alone like tell you about aliens, you know?
There's so many people who think like, if I could go back in time, what year would I go? And it's like, if you were to go back as you are exactly right now, like you don't get to change your clothes. I'm currently in only underwear. If I just flopped onto a field in the 1700s, oh my God, I can't even imagine what they would do.
Oh, imagine.
Anyway, similarly to UFO abductions, because UFO abductions, again, that was a big thing that happened in the 1950s, but this was before that. So if it wasn't a UFO abduction, another theory is that the kids might have been taken by fairies, that time passes differently. Similarly to UFO abductions, if fairies take you, time passes differently. And in a lot of traditions, fairies actually live beneath mounds, like the Platt Mound that they lived nearby. Fairies are also said to use magic to prevent people from talking about them, which would explain the disfluency. And a lot of contemporary folklorists say that UFO abductions are actually fairy abductions that were bastardized through an American lens, because there's a lot of similarities to if an alien abducts you versus if a fairy takes you. But because we're all obsessed with UFOs over here, our natural between the two is to assume, an alien.
Right, it's just like a different naming of it. Wow, that is interesting. I didn't realize that.
So, could be any of those things. I know to this day it has not been solved. We don't know.
Wow.
Whatever happened, people still consider the location extremely mysterious and paranormal and even haunted. And that is the Nodolf Incident.
Wowza, dude. I can't believe I've never heard of that, honestly.
Yeah, I looked it up to try to get more insight. There's like shockingly little information out there on it. So shout out to Saoirse for the research.
Oh yes, thank you, Saoirse. I typed Nodolf Incident and it says connect with Scott Nodolf on LinkedIn. No thanks.
Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't have a lot of quick links. Yeah.
That's wild. What a story. Well, I think it was aliens, so that's my hot take.
I also think it was aliens or fairies.
Great.
One of the two.
I think it was aliens. So here we go. I have a story for you today, that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And it is the story of the lipstick killer.
It's interesting when you say that you wanted to do something for a long time, because the fact that I feel like I know you so well and I know what's going on in that twisted little brain of yours, but then you just say things like that and I'm like, I've never heard of it. So I clearly didn't know what you were thinking about this whole time.
But you didn't know about my drawer tapping. So, there's a lot you don't know. I'm a secret vault.
The way that I will be clocking that from now on, though, like a hawk, is very interesting.
You won't see it. I've hit it from everyone my whole life.
I think I just
No,
haven't
there's
seen
a
you
reason
near
nobody
enough
knows about it.
drawers. I don't think I've
Oh,
seen you
what?
near enough drawers. If I take you to like an antique store with a bunch of furniture, though, maybe I open a bunch of doors to drawers and just see what happens, you know?
Just like be like David Attenborough, like, and the specimen walks toward
Oh,
the old armoire with her little fingies outstretched. She thinks no one
Her-
can see her. But if she
yeah,
doesn't tap the
exactly.
inside of the drawer 3 times, her whole family will die. So let's watch.
Oh,
It's
it makes
fun.
it
We have
sad.
fun. Yeah, well,
We
I
laugh
can make
because if we don't, we'll cry. Yes, I understand.
that's one of my gifts. Make everything sad. Okay. Here is the lipstick killer, which I said to you, like, oh, that you would know it, but I guess not. But I remember one of our earliest episodes, like truly like 3 or 4, I mentioned this guy and you said, oh, you should cover that someday. So you did at one point know about it, but I think in my mind,
One
it
whole
was
dog year
so
later, you're doing it,
mem-
Christine. I'm very excited.
I know, just for you, even though you have no memory of that apparently. But you might actually remember one part of it that is like the famous visual element of it. So we'll see if you pick up on it. But this is the story of the lipstick killer. This is actually a 2-parter. Okay, folks. So buckle up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the story of William Hirons. And we're just going to start off with his childhood. So he was born in Chicago, William George Hirons, in November 1928, which was just about a year before the notorious Black Monday stock market crash of October 28th, 1929, which, sent the U.S. into the Great Depression and started that whole era. And at the time, he was the son of a florist. His father had a flower business, and when the Great Depression hit, his flower business went under. And of course, like so many families in that era, William, who went by Bill, his family was thrown into poverty, and that's how he grew up. So, in addition to being impoverished, his parents argued constantly. So, he had a very, very high tension and strained home life. But plenty of kids were in this exact same position and had to find ways to cope and entertain themselves. I guess they could have used a little precious moments of a dog and put it in a drawer, and that might have done the trick. But I don't know if that was an option. But for what it's worth, Bill was very creative. He loved to draw. He was very into arts and crafts. He liked to tell stories to his younger brother, and he liked to tinker and try to fix things around the house. But he was largely unsupervised. And as he got older, he, as some kids do, tended to gravitate toward more troubling ways to fill his time. For example, when he was 12 years old, he worked as a cashier at a grocery store, which, by the way, imagine being 12 and you're supporting your family by working at a grocery store. It's just so sad, it's just really sad. So he's working at a cashier, and one day he got his math wrong during a transaction, and he accidentally shortchanged his drawer by about $1, which today is about $21. Yeah, so that was not good, and he knew he had to find a way to make that up to get $1. So he ended up stealing $1 from someone else to avoid getting in trouble. And yeah. So it's basically he was trying to keep things right, and then it just went sideways, And so the way that he was stealing this $1, he reached through a slightly ajar door in an apartment building, and it had a chain lock, but it was slightly open. So he reached through where the chain lock was, and there was an open purse right inside the door. And so he
that's convenient.
Stole
that's
the doll.
Wildly convenient.
I mean, I think he wandered around looking for an open apartment to steal from. I don't think it was
he
the
didn't
first
just
one he found.
manifest
I think he
a
just
perfectly open purse,
I mean, maybe he did. I don't know, but he happened to find somebody who had left their door open, and he was able to reach in and steal some money. And when he did that, he got a thrill out of it, which is where things go wrong. He began stealing regularly. He went after anything from money and expensive property like guns and radios to things that were pretty much useless. Just sometimes he would just steal for the sake of stealing, not a Les Mis situation, but more just for funsies. And so, of course, on the one hand, his family is struggling and he's helping to provide a little bit for them in Les Mis fashion. But on the other hand, some of the items he stole included men's boxers, handkerchiefs, things that like he just kept as like little trinkets, not actually to support the family. And he later claimed he actually never sold anything he stole. Like the things he stole were not for profit. It was just like for the thrill of stealing. And there was something about stealing that sort of relieved, I guess, his home life tension. Like it was like an outlet for him. And it became his favorite hobby. Later, when his parents asked him,
What a neat little daily activity.
I know, it's like he didn't have a hoop and stick, so why not pilfer
For the
a
Christine, for the
handkerchief?
rest of our days, I don't know what it is. I don't know what episode we started saying hoop and stick, but like that,
I
like
don't either.
it was, is, and always will be the funniest thing that can come out of your fucking mouth. Like,
Why do we say it? I just love it.
why
It
don't we
makes me
sell
laugh.
our own hoop and stick yet? I don't understand. We have to.
You've
Eva,
said that
write
once
that
a
down.
year, every year. We need.
How
to
hard
find
can it be to sell a hoop and stick? How hard? It's 2 pieces of wood. It's a hoop and a stick.
It's a hoop and a stick. It sells itself. Okay, so he started this great pastime. And later his parents asked him like when this all started, and he said he got the idea from comics and radio shows that made stealing seem like a thrill. So after this sort of petty crime spree, of course, he was eventually going to get caught, and he finally did. In June of 1942, at age 13, he was caught breaking into a locker in a basement near his home, and he was sentenced to a, yikes, Roman Catholic juvenile detention center in Indiana, which is like sort of a correctional school, but with very strict Roman Catholic oversight. And apparently he was a stellar student there. He followed all the rules.
Oh.
He was well behaved. He got good grades. And so when he returned to Chicago, it was almost like he had been reformed. But he, of course, fell quickly back into his old habits because he just could not resist stealing. And he was arrested again. He was sentenced to another Catholic institution. This time it was a private school in Peru, Illinois, not Peru.
I
Peru,
like the little
Illinois, the Midwest.
Illinois.
Side note, yeah, the Midwest loves to like create. I mean, I was talking, my brother and I talk about it all the time, but there's a town in Kentucky called Versailles, which is spelled like Versailles, or is it in Indiana? I don't know, but it's called Versailles. Like, I feel like people just love to take like European stuff and then pronounce it wrong in the Midwest. So
Right,
for all I know,
right.
it could be like Peru and not Peru. I don't know, but Peru, Illinois. I have no idea how it's pronounced. But while he was there, Bill thrived again. Like this sort of structured school environment really worked for him. And when he was just 16 years old, he qualified for a new program that admitted excelling students to the University of Chicago based just on academic merit. So, like, he really kicked ass in school. He skipped his senior years of high school and went immediately to college to get a bachelor's of science. And what he wanted to do was become an electronic engineer. So, in later 1945, Bill was 17 years old. He was starting this new life. He was living on campus at the University of Chicago. It like looked as though he had totally turned things around. He started doing some legal hobbies like ballroom dance classes, which like what a turn of events to go from petty theft to ballroom dancing. That has a new Hollywood blockbuster film written all over it.
It really does feel like a West Side Story or something of I just think, or like an Oliver Twist, something where there's just a lot of theft and a lot of music, and for no reason there,
And a lot of music.
They just go hand in
I told
hand.
you Les Mis, did I not? I've
It
thrown
is
that
very
out
Les
like
Mis,
3
yeah.
times now. So
You're right. You're
just
onto something for
saying.
sure.
I've, by the way, never seen Les Mis, so you know what? I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm pretending.
Crime and
okay.
singing. Yeah, it's vague enough. It makes sense.
It's French, all that shit, you know. So he starts his legal hobbies, as in ballroom dancing, chess. He got really into classical music. Like, he is nerding out in the best way. He was pretty popular. He was socially very successful, had an active dating life. One member of his dance class later said Bill was the most popular boy there, describing him as handsome, smart, and a good dancer. Everyone wanted to be his partner. But internally, Bill really was struggling, which people didn't realize. His classes were more difficult than he anticipated. I mean, keep in mind, he's 17 and like all he's ever known is like this life of working and trying to support his family and stealing. And now he's 17 and is like thrown into college campus. And so he struggled with his classes. He had to work a lot harder than other students to keep up. And one source says that Bill's mother had raised him to have a very puritanical view of sex, that it was wrong. And as a Catholic school child, former child, I can at least attest that I'm sure in his reform schools it was frowned upon and talked about as a bad thing. So I don't know if his mother said it, but at the very least, I'm sure the Catholic upbringing didn't help. And so he had this extreme anxiety about anything sexual. Like he would cry if he even kissed a woman, or he really I don't know. This is, again, I want to be clear too. This is just one source that claimed this. So I'm not 100% sure if, just take it with a boulder of salt, as we say. But, you know, it does add a little bit of texture to the story if it's true, that he would sometimes even get sick when he kissed women, which, you know, that could be a whole host of reasons why that would happen.
The irony of purity culture being your demon, like your big, the skeleton you have to deal with.
Right. I mean, you know, and I'm sure there's all sorts of probably tangled stuff in one's mind if you're in that state.
Oh, yeah.
But his anxieties piled up, and Bill just like couldn't cope very well, and so he turned back to his favorite hobby, his favorite pastime, which was burglary. And as he started getting back into burglary, the U.S. meanwhile was trying to climb back out of its, you know, Great Depression financial crisis, and we were creeping toward the end of World War II. But still, in June of that year, a lot of media focus was about World War II. And so when 43-year-old Josephine, known as Josie, Alice Ross, was found murdered in her Chicago home in June of 1945, that didn't even make the front page, even though in a normal climate, but like in a normal news cycle, that would have been front page news. But because of World War II, it just didn't even make the front page. And so what happened in that case, which wasn't widely known at the time, but of course we know now, is that an intruder had broken into Josie's home, wrapped a skirt around her face and neck, and stabbed her multiple times in the neck.
Oh my God.
And sort of hid her face with this skirt. And even weirder is that her wounds had actually been taped shut with like mechanical tape, like somebody was trying to like fix them. Yeah.
Or like hold in the bleeding or something. So like, or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's really disturbing. So yeah, like as if somebody was trying to stop the bleeding or felt remorseful in like an out of touch way, you know, it's unclear, but it was obviously very disturbing. And investigators pursued Josie's fiance and several ex-boyfriends, but all of them had solid alibis. So in the end, they thought, oh, well, it was probably just a burglar who was surprised by Josie, having assumed nobody was home, and attacked her randomly, which didn't quite match just because of like the specificity of like putting that. Like all the very specific parts of it don't really add up to me. At least as
that someone was there, it would be really hard for me to like. My first thought would not be, first of all, if I was going to kill somebody, I don't really know what my first move would be, but I don't think take a skirt and put it over their head and then mechanical bandage them.
That part, it doesn't really add up to me. So that was just kind of the only thing they had to lean on was like, I guess it was a burglary gone wrong. But on top of that, nothing had been stolen. So again, it just seemed unreasonable. And what they did find was a bit of dark hair clenched in Josie's hand.
And, good for her. Good girl.
Yeah. But of course, this is well before DNA analysis. So at the time, it really didn't mean much of anything. And so the investigation hit a dead end, and they just thought, we'll never solve this. But 6 months later, things had totally shifted. The climate had changed. World War II was over. Soldiers were coming home. Things were looking up financially. I mean, we're heading into that like night, which is one of my most fascinating like deep dives. Just the kind of like Pleasantville-esque nature of the 50s, where it was like everybody's
Hmm.
home and don't think about anything that happened 10 years ago. Like, look at my
Half of the
casserole,
population is
all
shell
that shit.
shocked, but let's keep
Yeah.
coasting.
But let's keep taking Valium because we can't function. I just find that whole time in American history very interesting. But anyway, so the media, of course, were like, all right, let's move on from this war, this depression. Let's find some new news to talk about. So in 1945, on December 11th, when 32-year-old Frances Brown was found murdered in her home, the news outlets were like, all right, we got a big story here. And she had been killed the day before on December 10th. And her head had been wrapped up in towels, much like Josie's had been wrapped in a skirt.
Aha.
And she had also been stabbed in the neck, just like Josie had been. And there was a bullet wound in her head. And like in Josie's case, nothing had been stolen. So, odd.
Mhm.
A little too similar to Josie's case to discount. They also found a bloody fingerprint smudge on the door jamb of the apartment. But what really attracted the media was a message that the killer had left at the scene of the crime. And this message, ooh, I already have goose cam. Okay, we'll post it. It's actually one of our first Instagram posts that we ever posted on, and that's why we drink in like 2017. It's written in lipstick across a wall, and the words read, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself."
Oh, chilling. Also, like,
Yeah.
in lipstick. Okay, I was wondering when the lipstick would come into play, but that's
Yep.
oof. Oh
I'm
my
gonna
god.
send
Okay.
you I'm gonna send you a picture of it because I think you might recognize it. I feel like this is the thing that I showed you way back when. And then I posted it on Instagram back in 2017. But it's like really disturbing to look at. And we'll post this as well on
Oh, I
Instagram.
immediately recognize it.
Right?
Oof.
Ugh.
And the
It is
handwriting is
so
particularly
eerie.
chilling. I don't know what it is about the handwriting, but it's like kind of chicken scratch, but like some of it's in cursive, but like some of it looks like a 5-year-old drew it. And it looks almost like
Yeah.
I know this isn't the case because someone's like at the same time begging to be found, but it seems like almost Zodiac killer writing. It seems like an intentional writing to not be caught.
Yeah, I think what like really gives me the heebie-jeebies about it, like what you said, is that the letters are all kind of different. It's almost like
Hmm.
ransom letters where it's like
Yeah, yeah.
some are lowercase, some are uppercase. Uh Ooh, it gives me the creeps. It's like they're all it looks like somebody was like learning to write each letter almost. It's like each one is
Yes.
very yeah, and even the L is like kind of a loop, but it's just
Uh-huh.
odd. It's very odd, very chilling, very unsettling. And so they found that across the wall of this murder scene. And of course, the papers jumped all over this. And they dubbed the culprit the lipstick killer because, again, this message had been written in lipstick. And this sent Chicago into a frenzy because this killer who had written this message had promised he would kill again. So now they're like, shit, he's out there
TikTok.
somewhere, TikTok, he's coming for us. So women who lived alone, of course, felt this deep-seated fear that they could be next, especially because the first two attacks had seemed pretty random. And then weeks later, on January 7th of 1946, this is very sad. Just a warning. Of course, it's sad. It's all sad. But James Degnan entered his 6-year-old daughter's bedroom at about 7:30 a.m. To get her up for school and discovered she was missing.
Oh,
And James and his family lived in a pretty affluent neighborhood, and so police were very quick to respond and come out full force to search for 6-year-old Suzanne. And what they found, which they didn't notice at first because they just kind of like skipped over it, but when they looked closer, there was a wrinkled, crumpled up note in Suzanne's bedroom. And this note demanded a ransom for Suzanne's safe return. And the note advised James, Suzanne's father, not to involve the police or FBI. and instructed him instead to send $20,000 in exchange for Suzanne in $5 and $10 bills, and then burn the note for Suzanne's safety. So burning the note, thank God, didn't happen, because when they took a closer look, they found a fingerprint on this piece of paper.
And fingerprints were something we were paying attention to.
Yeah, we had that figured out.
Okay.
By this time, by the 50s, yeah, we knew about fingerprints.
I just never know.
40s,
I always get my fucking hopes up, and then I forget that DNA wasn't like a universally discovered thing.
It's a fair question. Yeah, I do. So whether the abductor ever actually intended to return Suzanne, or if he was just like punishing James for involving the authorities when he said not to, it's unclear. But either way, Suzanne was tragically found dead roughly 12 hours after being reported missing. And it's really gruesome and really horrible. The killer had dismembered her remains and moved them to different parts of town. The first piece of her that was discovered was her head. It's just so fucking horrible. An anonymous tipster spotted the remains in a sewer near the Degnans' home, and her right and left legs were found in 3 separate drainage sites, like catch basins and storm drains, and her torso and arms were eventually discovered in other drains and sewers. So this is just an incredibly horrifically dark and twisted person who did this.
Oh my God.
And so eventually investigators searching the neighborhood discovered the basement where Suzanne had been dismembered. Like, they were able to say this is where it happened, but evidence suggested that she had been killed elsewhere in a location that they just could not find. So they knew the like basement area where this had happened. Chicago erupted over this monstrous crime, as you can imagine. And police didn't quite make a connection yet between this murder and the lipstick killer murders, because they were nothing alike at all. Josie and Frances were both adult women. They were alone at home. They were killed in similar ways. They had their faces covered as though like remorseful. The murderer didn't take anything, didn't leave a ransom note. And meanwhile, Suzanne was abducted from her bedroom while her family was home. And they actually found a ladder outside in the backyard that had been used to reach her bedroom, which is, I mean, talk about like a fear, like a childhood fear that somebody could like get up to your window. It's just fucking terrifying. So the killer was after money, which was not the case in the other 2 murders. And the dismemberment was completely different as well. Like, so it just didn't really match up.
Yeah, it's like he's experimenting with new tactics or something.
Yeah, or it's a totally different person. Just saying. So the coroner's expert declared that Suzanne's body had been dismembered with terrifying precision. So I just like say that because you had mentioned like experimenting, and it sort of didn't come off that way. It was like, no, this person knew what they were doing. They weren't like trying things or messing around. Like, they had very, very carefully done this and had planned to do this. And so the coroner's expert basically believed the killer had a background in anatomical studies, dissections, perhaps butchering. And according to him, not even the average doctor would be able to pull this off, because I guess there is, this is disturbing, like all of it's disturbing, but obviously, but it's just particularly one of my issues. But there is apparently one spot you can dissect a torso, or like separate a torso from the legs, I think, without cutting through bone. Like, there's just one very specific part of your spine, and that is where she had been dismembered. So whoever did this knew how to do it in like the most efficient way. It's just something not a normal everyday doctor would know. It's something either a surgeon or somebody with like very precise knowledge would know. So at first, they were desperate for a lead, so they arrested this guy, 65-year-old Hector Verberg, and he was a custodian in the Degnans building who also worked in the building where Suzanne was dismembered. And to clarify, when they found the basement where she had been dismembered, this was an apartment building, so it wasn't like one specific family's basement that they could point to
Sure.
who lived there. It was like a general, a lot of people lived in this building. And this guy happened to be a custodian in the Degnans building and in the building where they found this dismemberment site. And because he was the custodian, he frequently went into the basement, and it seemed like a suspicious coincidence, but it really wasn't. It made sense that he was a custodian in multiple buildings in the same neighborhood. Like, he was hired to be a custodian. It wasn't that unusual that he was in both buildings. He had a connection to both buildings. But police really wanted Hector. Yeah. And so police were like, yeah, but it's so weird. And so they arrested him, and they demanded he confess. They even put pressure on his wife to make some admission proving Hector's guilt, but she was like, he didn't do anything. And he was instead subjected to a 48-hour interrogation. He was physically tortured and psychologically tortured, mentally tortured. They denied him food. They blindfolded him. They beat him. They hung him from the ceiling by his arms. Yeah.
Which God, that's medieval.
His shoulder. Yeah, I mean, it is. It feels very, very arcane.
And what year was this?
Archaic, I mean. 1946, I believe.
Yeah, that uncalled for, unheard of, like unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean,
all the way through.
Unnecessary for sure. Definitely uncalled for. Definitely not unheard of, unfortunately. But definitely uncalled for. And they dislocated his shoulder. And after he was released, Hector stated, "Any more and I would have confessed to anything." But he held up.
Wow.
He held on to his innocence this whole time. And apparently, after he got out of the police station, he went straight to the hospital. And he and his wife ended up moving away. I mean, imagine how traumatizing that is. Like, they're like, "Okay, you can go." And I can't
imagine. I don't know how society didn't crumble just as with the mindset of like, if I beat someone into saying whatever I want them to say, they must be guilty. Like, how did we survive as a species with that poor ass thinking? It's wild.
I mean, this is not the first time, obviously, let the people who were in charge keep doing it, keep being in charge, because they were like, "Oh, you're a witch. Sorry, you can't live anymore. So I'm just gonna kill you." I don't know. I think it just boggles the mind as someone who never had to. It's moments like this from like, I'm so lucky that I was born not in that time. Me too. Like, but it's, oh God, it's just yikes. It's just so hard to wrap my head around how that was a working system. I agree. Yeah, it feels very hopeless, you know? And I mean, this kind of thing still happens, so it's not even like we're that far off from it. But yeah, so the Hector and his wife sued the police department, and they won. And the police was stuck with his hospital bill, which I think was like 18 grand or something. It was a lot of money. But yeah, but Hector still suffered the emotional turmoil, of course, and the trauma of this, and now a social stigma of like everybody staring at him like, "Are you the fucking guy who killed that little girl?"
Right.
And he felt like the accusation cast such a shadow over him and his reputation that he and his wife had to leave town. They couldn't live there anymore. And so now investigators have done fucked up, and they're back at square one, and they decide to pursue another trail. And near the Degnans' home, they had discovered some blonde hairs and a wire that they thought had maybe been used to strangle Suzanne. And near those items, they had also found a handkerchief, which was monogrammed and like embroidered with the name S. Sherman.
Okay.
So police found records that a recently discharged Marine named Sidney Sherman was living at a YMCA in Chicago, and so they went and found him. And when they arrived to question him, he had abandoned his living space without notifying anyone, and had even left his job without collecting his final paycheck. So
shady.
It seemed a little bit like, yes, like maybe he was on the run. An extensive manhunt ensued, and they located Sidney several days later in good old Toledo, Ohio, where he had eloped with his girlfriend. And when they found him, they were like, "Hey, we got your handkerchief." And he was like, "That's not mine." And they said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "No, it's not." And he passed a polygraph test, so there really wasn't anything they could do about it. You know, we know a polygraph is not admissible evidence, but they didn't even have that to go off of to like pressure him. So they basically had to let him go. And turns out it was not his handkerchief. So after
Oh
all
my
this,
God.
it wasn't even his handkerchief. They actually eventually found the real owner of the handkerchief, a guy named Seymour Sherman, not
Oh,
Sidney
okay.
Sherman. Yeah. So Seymour was like, oh, yeah, that's my handkerchief. And he cooperated with the police and he was able to prove that he wasn't even in the country when Suzanne was killed.
Oh,
So we
okay.
don't know
Well, he had
how
nothing to worry about.
Yeah, he was fine. He didn't have to hide in Toledo or anything. But his handkerchief, nobody knows how it ended up in Suzanne's neighborhood. Even to him, like he still couldn't say how that ended up where it was. He's like, I have no idea.
Wild.
But his
Okay.
alibi was airtight. So now they're at another dead end. And at this point, police announced several times to the public that they had captured Suzanne's murderer. And so people are thinking like, oh, it's Hector. They've caught him. Not Hector. Oh, it's a Sidney Sherman. They caught him. Nope, not him. Oh, it's Seymour Sherman. Nope, not him. So they're basically like running against a ticking clock and the public is getting pissed off because they're like, you keep telling us you got the person who did this and then
Right. Figure it out.
you let them go. Yeah, figure it out. So the killer or killers were still at large, and of course the media is now starting to turn on the police and saying like, "Hey, they're not handling this right. They're not getting any answers," and this pressure was mounting. And now we cut back to good old William Hirons, aka Bill. We're now looking at him in late June of 1946. He's doing pretty well for himself. He's enjoying the summer between his freshman and sophomore years at University of Chicago. He's still doing his little hobby of petty thievery. And he had actually stolen enough money over this time to purchase $1,000 in savings bonds. So he's like stealing, but then he's like using it to try and,
It's like
I don't
a
know,
weird
make
self
some
Robin
real-
Hood situation.
Yeah, yes. Like Les Mis. I mean, come on, folks. Okay, so am I wrong? Maybe, probably. So so stupid. Oh, again, I've never seen it. So Bill was scheduled to go on a date with a girl he really liked. So he headed to the post office to cash the bonds to get some money to take her on a date. And he took a revolver with him, apparently for protection, because he planned to walk home with $1,000 cash in his pocket. And today that's about 16 grand. So he's like, I'm walking home with 16 grand in cash. I'm bringing my gun. But the post office was closed. So Bill, oh, Billy, decided to steal some cash for his date on his way home.
Class act.
Stupid.
You know what? He was
Because
determined to go on that date. He said she's going to have a
He wanted
good
it
time.
to be nice.
Allison,
Yeah,
why
he
don't you
wanted
steal 16
candles.
grand for a date with me? I'm confused. Wait a minute.
I mean, maybe she does, and she's just better at it.
She's
Maybe
sneakier.
maybe she's just like me and my drawers. My drawers. I meant my drawers. Never mind. Okay.
Unassummed. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Just like Les
my
Mis,
secrets
just like Les Mis.
until, just like Les Mis. You get it. Finally, you get it. So he decides, oh well, my cashing this at the post office isn't going to work, so I guess I'll just steal some. And unfortunately, as we probably saw coming, he was spotted mid-burglary, chased down by police officers, and cornered. And panicked, he pulled out his revolver. And there's a disagreement on who fired first. Of course, the police say that Bill pulled the trigger, but the gun misfired, and then police opened fire. Bill denied ever attempting to fire the weapon. I'm not sure I trust these particular cops at this point after having tortured someone into, confessing. So I'm going to say I'm not so sure about their version of events. But either way, he was brandishing a weapon, and an off-duty police officer in swim trunks, because he had spent the day with his family at Lake Michigan and was just like off the clock, but happened to be there. He overheard the situation. He intervened and he smashed 3 flower pots over Bill's head, like fucking Looney Tunes style. Acme. They must have said Acme on it, like
all he needed was a piano or something.
An anvil,
just
right?
like
a piano. Yeah, it looks like Les Mis. Yes, exactly. It's the same thing. And so he smashed 3 flower pots over Bill's head over and over until Bill fell unconscious. And he was arrested in the Degnans neighborhood. Like, this burglary occurred near Suzanne's house where she had been abducted and then murdered and dismembered. And so the kind of closeness, the proximity of this arrest kind of struck the police. And this connection to the crime basically would seal Bill's fate. He ended up being taken in as Suzanne's murderer. But things, of course, were not then and still are not as black and white as investigators would ultimately try to make them. And the case to this day is extremely controversial, but we'll get to that in part 2.
Oh, Christine. Just like Les Mis.
Just like Les Mis, ending on a cliffhanger.
You keep me wanting more. You keep me wanting more.
That's right.
Wow.
It's my inspiration.
What a good one, Christine. Oh,
isn't that crazy?
I'm glad we're finally talking about it, and even as if I have been on the edge of my seat for 7 years or one dog year.
You're just being nice. I know you've been waiting a whole 7 dog years for me to do this, and you're just trying to let me off the hook. But I know you've been waiting, so here it is.
Well, I hope everyone had a good 365. I did. I know I did. And
that's all that
guess,
matters.
Man, and I'm not even going to get to record with you for so long. So like,
that's true.
We're going to have to do a recap for our next episode because I'm not going to remember.
That's true.
Everything.
I didn't time that quite well. I mean, the plan was to do Friday, then Monday, Tuesday. So I had planned to do them day. Yeah, but unfortunately,
things happen. Just like Les Mis.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to text you every non-Les Mis reference for the rest of my life.
I'm gonna say, like, I won't even get the real references. Like, that's how much I don't know about. Like, I know that they steal bread to feed their family. That's the end of what I know about that show.
I could literally go.
I don't know.
I could literally go walk down the street in my neighborhood and find Hugh Jackman and send you a picture and be like, just like Les Mis, and you won't even understand that. Like, they're like.
I literally don't. I don't know what that means.
Oh my god!
So I'm already not understanding.
He's in
and
Les Mis.
I feel like I mean, obviously I sort of could deduce that, but like if you just sent me a picture, I'd be like, who's that guy? Isn't that the guy that's familiar
Jude Law
from the movies?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that Jude Law? But he was also in Les Mis, so I feel like that's a little bit misleading.
Okay. Well,
I have a headache.
Okay. I wish I was taking a weed. I feel like I'm taking a weed gummy every time I just listen to your voice.
That's the nicest thing you ever said to me.
Speaking of which, I was telling Jordan, we'll just end on a Jordan thing. I did give her the compliment yesterday of telling her she has queer energy, and it seemed to make her day. So I'm, if you meet someone and they give you a nice queer vibe, maybe tell them, maybe make their day. And if they have a problem with it, then that's, already, like that was actually a test. And
then you have a problem with them. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, just like in Les Mis. So anyway,
I knew you were gonna go there. I was like, say it.
Well, thank you, everybody. And we are still on tour. Please come see us and come to our shows and make our moms very proud. And and
that's
why
we
drink.